If you think about food in America, a couple of things stand out. First, we grow a whole lot of it. Even though farming is risky, our food supply is abundant and relatively cheap. And yet, at the same time, many people, 1 in 8 Americans, can't afford enough to eat. Without government nutrition programs like food stamps, they would go hungry. That's where the Farm Bill comes in, a massive piece of legislation that costs $100 billion every year. It plays a huge role in making sure that farmers keep producing food and that poor people's plates aren't empty. Most of the time, we don't hear or think about the Farm Bill. It just sort of hums along in the background. But every 5 years or so, Congress has to pass a new one. So it lifts the hood and starts knocking around, putting the future direction of our food system up for grabs. So what is the Farm Bill? For starters, the name, the Farm Bill, doesn't tell the whole story. You can think of it as a powerful, complex machine. A machine with 3 big gears. One helps farmers survive the ups and downs of a risky business. A second gear feeds the hungry. In fact, spending on food stamps dwarfs everything else in the bill. It accounts for 80% of the cost. The third gear focuses on the environment, because you need to protect the water, air, and land once farms get really big. Taken together, the Farm Bill has kept most of us from questioning whether there will be enough food tomorrow, next week, or any time in the future. The Farm Bill has been up and running for 85 years, but now the machine is threatening to break down. And with it, the government's main tool for making sure the nation's food system keeps running. Now, nobody would call the Farm Bill perfect. But if it falls apart, lives and livelihoods would be at risk. Would millions go hungry? Would farmers go bankrupt? Would our air and water quality suffer? To answer these questions, we need to step back. How did we get here in the first place? The Great Depression. Remember the Dust Bowl, the Okies migrating to California from the Great Plains? The country was in crisis, from an economic freefall to a punishing drought. Crop prices crashed, soil blew away, and farmers lost everything. Millions went hungry. So FDR got busy. To turn things around, the government started paying farmers not to grow too much food. The idea was to shrink the glut of crops like corn, wheat, and rice and stabilize prices. As the supply went down, prices would go up. The feds also started buying up any excess crops and putting it in reserves, and these stockpiles were used to feed the hungry. To protect the soil and prevent another Dust Bowl, Congress added a bunch of conservation measures. This became the blueprint for all of the farm bills to come. Over the years, the Farm Bill has grown into a giant legislative machine. In today's dollars, the most recent bill cost about 14 times more than the very first one, and it has a lot of moving parts. But the 3 main goals, support farmers, feed the hungry, and protect the environment, are still the same. Keeping the gears turning has meant that 3 key groups have had to compromise: the agriculture industry, anti-hunger advocates, and environmentalists. As long as each side got enough of what it wanted, the Farm Bill has kept on chugging. But finding this compromise is getting harder and harder, and now there are huge cracks in the machine. Part of this has to do with the ways the Farm Bill and our food system have changed, and part of it has to do with our increasingly partisan politics. The Farm Bill's future is at risk. To understand why, let's look closer at how this machine actually works. Now, stick with me because things are about to get a little wonky. First, let's look at what farmers get. The Farm Bill today gives them money in 2 important ways. They get subsidies for farming, cash payments that keep production high and prices for consumers low. And they get crop insurance, which protects farmers in case they lose the harvest or prices drop. In both cases, taxpayers write the checks. Free marketeers and food system reformers call this corporate welfare. That's because a lot of the money goes to big ag, not struggling family farmers. About half of all payments go to farmers making more than $100,000 a year. Plus, most of that money pays for things we don't even eat, like ethanol for cars, cotton, and animal feed. Or it goes to crops that end up in the cheap, highly processed foods that have helped drive obesity and the rise of food conglomerates. Meanwhile, sustainable food advocates want more funds for organic farming and fresh produce. But agribusiness has become a powerful political force and doesn't want to give ground. As for farmers, their income is way down, and they're fighting to keep these programs in place. Another pressure point? SNAP, the food stamp program that helps 41 million low-income Americans afford groceries. It was added to the Farm Bill in the 1970s. That move helped sway urban lawmakers to support a bill that had mostly benefited farm country, and encouraged rural lawmakers to support anti-hunger programs that were used mostly by the urban poor. At this point, you would think everyone would agree that people shouldn't go hungry. But food stamps have gotten bound up in the debate over government benefits. To Democrats, anti-hunger programs like food stamps are the heart of the social safety net, and they'll do anything to keep them in place. And while Republicans are behind the push to cut spending on anti-hunger programs, the dynamics of hunger have changed. People living in rural America, which tends to skew conservative, are actually more likely to use food stamps than those in cities. The third flashpoint: environmental protection. Big Ag wants to slash regulations that tell farmers not just how, but where they can grow crops. They say these rules, protecting rivers, prairies, and migrating birds, have gone too far and hurt their bottom line. But environmentalists say the Farm Bill is already way too weak, and they're fighting attempts to roll back protections for water, wildlife, and air quality. The big question now is whether the Farm Bill compromise can hold. Can each side back down and offer just enough to keep the machine running, or will the gears grind to a halt? Because if the Farm Bill breaks down, almost a century of food and agriculture policy will go up in smoke. Some think sending the Farm Bill to the junkyard wouldn't be such a bad thing. It might make room to shift the balance of power away from Big Ag and toward a more localized and democratic food system. But there's no guarantee that we'll end up in a better place if we scrap the Farm Bill, especially in today's hyper-partisan political climate. In fact, nobody knows what would happen to agriculture, the environment, or anti-hunger efforts if the Farm Bill blew up. There's really nothing on the drawing board to take its place. That's why so many advocates and lawmakers are tinkering away, trying to keep the machine running. Farming may be a risky business, but so far, sabotaging the Farm Bill isn't a risk that anyone's been willing to take.